ourselves, and we should not use the university as a vehicle for personal gain. And whether this happens or not, I don't know exactly, but I hear some stories. Because if we start doing the same thing as what our political system does, maybe we're doing it just a little bit, but a little bit grows, and eventually we will be viewed as a Christian university that really does not practice what it preaches.
Yeah.
And I think that's more important than for somebody to listen to a sermon. Because when some people, when they listen to a sermon and the sermon is too long, they probably lost interest anyway, and then they don't absorb what is being said in the sermon. But if you live your life as exemplified by the life of Christ, as we read in the Bible, the words of God, then that would be a more effective evangelism for the university. And maybe we can affect the lives of many students, because our country right now, it seems like it is degenerating.
Yeah.
And hopefully with more Centralians working in the four corners of the Philippines, maybe, just maybe, we can transform the society so that the Philippines will not be in the top 10 of the worst corrupt countries in the world. And it starts with the way we live our life, because it is a good example for people to emulate.
Katahom sir sa sinangin nambal nimo bangod nga ang aton nga eksperyensya subong sa aton nga susyudad. Ni ginatawag naton nga split level Christianity. Ang aton nga pagka-Kristohanon Domingo lang. Kag Lunes tubtob sa Badodo way na naya kinahanglan Kristohanon. Sa mga pulisiya nga ginihimuon nato way naman naya kinahanglan Kristohanon dira. Kag duga kalipat kita sa sini nga mga bagay, and kanami sa imo ginambal nga dapat all facets sa aton nga pagpangabuhi ara ang aton nga pagtuo ang aton spiritualidad. Kag kadako nga vision sir sa imo ginambal nga may dakogling role ang Central Philippine University sa pagproducer sa mga Centralians nga magadala sa pagbago sa sosyudad. Bangod sini sir, ano ang imong paglantaw sa aton nga, for example, religion and ethics nga subject nga mo ni ang isa ka approach sa aton nga university sa pag-inculcate sa sini nga mga Christian values sa aton nga mga estudyante. Duwa lang ni ka semester nga aton RE nga subject, 6 units. I don't know kung ano imo nga pag-alantaw sini.
At this time, I'm not exactly sure of what is being taught in that class, whether it is the same as what we've been through during our years. So I'd like to see first what it is, and see how we can make sure that we don't just study the Bible as a historical book, but rather how that impacts our lives today, instead of the life of Daniel or the life of David and so on. How does it affect our lives? And we should not emphasize reading the Bible daily, instead reading and understanding the Bible. I have read the Bible many times in the past, and I still remember the important things that had impacted me. And I don't have to memorize these verses, because I understand how I should live my life for that. So I think the emphasis should be understanding it and how it will affect our lives today, as exemplified by the teachings of Christ.
Kamusta yo sir aton nga College of Theology, ano imo panulok kag sa pagproducer sa mga pastors para sa aton makasimbanan kag para sa sosyedad?
I'm not really a theologian, so I would leave this to theologians to figure out the best way. However, it is important that the administration will also look into the programs that they are doing. And for example, the program under Dr. Jill that you're working with, reaching out to the pastors in other areas, that's very important. And I think we need to do more, starting with our pastors in Iloilo, in Panay, and in Western Visayas. How best we can provide them with more nourishment, basically spiritually. Because sometimes when you're out there in the field, you are faced with so many different situations that maybe you haven't learned how to cope with that in your life here in campus. And also, I think we need to educate our pastors, not just in preaching, and ministering to the flock, but also maybe learning something about the livelihood of those people. Maybe an agriculturist would be a good combination with a preacher preaching, because how can we make, or how can we convert people if they're hungry? What is important to them first? To feed the family. So the church should not just be concerned with spiritual growth, but also the economics of their constituencies.
Kanami sa imong ginambal na nungod sa holistic nga ministry sa aton nga mga pastor nga sa tanan nga sahi sa pagpangabuhi sa tao yara siya. Sir, interesado ako sa relasyon sa Central Philippine University kag Convention of Philippine Baptist Churches. Ini isa ka Baptist University kag member institution sa aton nga convention kag na-enshrine sa aton nga constitution nga at least 10 sa aton board of trustees should come from the Convention of Philippine Baptist Churches, and majority sa aton nga corporations maghalin sa sina nga sektor. Kamusta, ano ang imong paglantaw sa sining nga relasyon kag paano naton mapanami pag yan?
I think the number is not the problem. I think the problem would be if, you know, it depends on the person who is in the board of trustees. So I am not too much concerned with that. I am more concerned of how can the convention and the university work together for the benefit of both institutions. It should not be one governing the other, but rather both cooperating together. I will be speaking at the Convention Baptist Ministers Association on the 21st. So you'll probably hear some of my thoughts on that, I'm trying to deliver to the pastors on how best they can serve their community.
Kay namangkot ko one time sa isa ka American Baptist nga missionary nagkadto diri sa ni Reverend Ben Chan, nga nagmuno ko kag nagpasalamat kung na-enshrine gid sa constitution sa aton mga institutions like Iloilo Mission Hospital, Philamer Christian College, Emmanuel Hospital, and CPU, nga dapat majority gid dira ang taga-simbahan. Agud nga ang experience nila sa una sa Amerika nga may mga educational institutions yung patukod ang mga Baptist nga denomination, so li nadula kag nangin secular university bangod wala na enshrine sa ila konstitusyon kag sulihi wala na ex officio member na lang ang Baptist nga grupo.
Well, actually, there are two views in that. I believe one of the reasons why they want the convention to be the governing body, or majority of the governing body, was because in the United States, it is the convention of Baptist churches that helps the university. And that's why they thought at that time that the convention will grow to a point where they will be self-supporting and be able to support the university, because we cannot expect continuous support from the American Baptist International Ministries. They don't want us to be dependent all our life. And there is another view on what you've said. There are some truth to the transformation of some of those universities related to religious groups. However, if you look at the governing body of many religious institutions, theological seminaries, you'll find that the majority are businessmen. But what kind of businessmen do you put in that position? If they are businessmen that are strong in their belief, then the transformation to non-secular will not occur. So it's more on the person on the board rather than their affiliation. That's why the American Baptist Seminary of the West, a lot of their board of trustees are businessmen, because those are the people that can have the resources, or know people with resources that can help the university. It is important to understand that tuition fees paid by the students are not enough to run the university. So where do you get the money? From people with resources that could help raise money for endowment funds. So all we need to do is be careful whom we choose as members of the corporation or members of the board of trustees. Traditionally, members of the corporation and board of trustees are the ones that are responsible for providing